Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cloverly Academy. My name is Sophia Wardell, and today we have a very special guest, multi-genre author Sean Gregory. Sean Gregory is the author of The Growing Darkness, as well as two new series of books, the mixed-genre detective series, The Case Files of Miles Ward, and the multi-genre fantasy epic, The God Killers. Thanks for joining us today, Sean.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much for taking the time to give me an opportunity to sit and talk with you. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, likewise. We've been really excited about this interview, and I really would love to talk to you today all about writing process and inspiration. So, Sean, tell us, from what various channels could an author find inspiration for their novels?
I'll be honest with you. It's different for every author. You'll probably hear 1,000 different things, but I think the number one thing that you will hear all the time is you got to pull from your life. You got to, uh, you know, I started off. I've been writing, off and on since I was actually 12 years old. I've always like dabbled in it, and I threw absolutely everything away because it always felt forced. I always was trying to fit some mold that I created in my mind based on who I read and what I thought it needed to be and what I thought was cool. And the reality is that until this book, I had never actually just extracted something from my life and said, I have a story I want to tell, but I want to tell it in a different way. And let me tap into that. And the number one thing I would say is tap into something that is personal. And this book that we're gonna talk about is deeply personal. And because of that, it wrote itself. I took what I knew about genre, about fantasy fiction in this case. So I say to somebody, first start there. Start with the life your life, something, and make a story out of it. And then look at the people around you. Look at, you can look at news events. You can look at, what other people have written. Always looking at what other people have written. I think if you're not a well-read reader, you're not going to be a very good writer. So, I extract from, Agatha Christie or Brandon Sanderson or Patrick Rothfuss or, J.R.R. Tolkien or, and now until recently, and up recently, some female authors, N.K. Jemisin, Caitlin Brooke, who's an independent writer that is actually my number one favorite author right now. I read her books and I went, I'm going to use some of her creativity. And I talked to her about it and she was like, oh my God, do it, do it. So I think that that's the thing. Every writer should first draw from their own life, then draw from the world around them, and then draw from those people they've read. Be well read.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. You learn from the experts and the people that have done it before you, and inspiration, how to write, everything. Now, I love that you mentioned some of those killer authors and a new one, Caitlin Brooke, who I have personally not heard of. I'll have to look into her. What lessons would you say you've learned from some of these favorite authors?
So from the big one, the one I've learned the most from is actually from Brandon Sanderson because he's the most, he's the most prevalent right now within the genre. Everybody knows his name. He has website after, and blog posts and everything. And the thing that I learned, believe it or not, I learned two critical things from him. One, always be raising the stakes. Every scene, every interaction, every chapter should raise the stakes in some way. If it doesn't raise the stakes, it's fluff. Get rid of it.
Hmm.
The second thing that I learned from him was more about magic and world building, and it's just a very simple thing. Limitations are greater than powers. If your powers are so great that there's no conflict there's nothing that your characters and the magic can just do anything, then it's not a very good system. It needs to have the conflict comes from when your world can't be resolved, whether it's magic, whether it's action, whether it's personality, whatever it is, intellect, when your main character, when your protagonist can't solve the problem through all of their skills, that's where the juicy stuff happens. You got to take away their ability to resolve the problems in their usual way. Otherwise, they're not going to grow. And I learned those two things from Brandon Sanderson. And Agatha Christie taught me the magic of dropping little clues that reveal something, but that are so subtle that though the reader may pick up on them, it's a aha moment for them later when they go, I can't believe I missed that. You
You know,
know?
that's a great point. I know that from personal experience. I love those when you realize, oh, I remember reading that and thinking, I wonder what this has to do with anything. And then later you find out, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm just totally mind blown. Now, I want to stop for a minute and dig a little deeper with world building. How do you approach world building for a multi-generational fantasy epic like The God Killers?
So, this is my first time actually world building. Everything I've ever written before was more of, it was the real world of something I knew, something that existed. So approaching it in this way, it started with an idea. When I was building my world, I kind of took from the creation story within scripture, believe it or not, because I was so well versed in it. And then I flipped it on its head. And I started at a point in history and I went, here's where I am in this point. First, let me figure out how I got here. So I started and I had a lot of discussions with other writers and other people within who are fantasy fiction people or who are D&D players or all of that, the people who read this stuff, right? My friends, those of us who are kind of nerdy. And went backwards and we created what's called through thought and careful planning backed up into the creation myth of the world, which then allowed me to have this, oh, so this is the genesis moment and it doesn't go all the way back to like the earth was created. It was more along the lines of we're in this point in space, we were somewhere else in time. How did we get here? What was the catalytic moment that got us here, that led to this being able to be here? How do we get back to that? And now that we have that line, how do we then build the world outward so that we can go, how does 10, 15, 20, in my case, 30,000 years after this event that happened, what does the world look like after it's evolved after 30,000 years of evolution? And in my case, and I make no secret about this, it's not this huge reveal because I kind of talk about it. The whole purpose of my book is that there are these pantheon of gods that rule the world, and they turn out to be fake. How did we get there? How did the entire world buy into this? And so through the eyes of the main character, we build this world up as he is the only unbeliever in the entire world.
Wow. Well, I like how you started those stages of development, and I loved how you described them kind of unraveling. I think it's a great place to start. And now, the last question I want to ask you would be, what would you say is your biggest tip for crafting prose?
Write how you think. Write how you think. Everybody that reads that's read my stuff that knows me personally, they're like, it's like I hear your voice. I hear your cadence, I hear your word selection, I hear how you structure your sentences. They write how you think, and then once you've got that out, go back and edit more creatively.
Hmm.
That's so it's like I write how I think, I write how I speak, I put it out there. I try to differentiate characters through personality and kind of change up the cadence using, like, I'll use my brother or I'll use my wife or I'll use my mom or my dad or my best friend or my boss, whatever. I'll use somebody's rhythm when I'm trying to create a character just so I can create that differentiation. But then when I go back and do that first reread, I then think of the prose and go, is this how I want to say it? Is it clumsy? The first thing I look for is if it's clumsy. And I read it out loud, and if it sounds clumsy and I stumble over it, then I go, yeah, no, we got to adjust that prose. But I also, I kind of like things like, I kind of like I love wordplay. So I kind of do like these things within, and people who've read it. Some people didn't like it. They're like, it's a little too modern for a fantasy. And others are like, oh, I love the way you just played with the words in there and did things. And that's the thing. But start with how you think, how you speak, put that down, and then go back and edit it. Don't try to do it right away.
Well, Sean, thank you so much. That was wonderful insight on writing process and inspiration.
I thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely a pleasure to speak with you today.
Likewise. And now, where can our listeners find and connect with you?
So I'm on social media, so Facebook, Instagram. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to handle YouTube and TikTok, but I'm also on Threads. And I actually spend a lot more time on Threads. But if you go to my website, www.sean, that's SEAN dash Gregory, GREGORY.com, you can get the links to my socials, and that's the easiest way. I also have a Discord, which is just a simple matter of send me a message on Instagram that you want to join the Discord, and I'll vet you because I do want it to be a safe environment for absolutely everybody. And if you're somebody that I think is going to be a great contributor to the community, right into the Discord you go.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you everyone for tuning into today's interview with multi-genre author Sean Gregory. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.